Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to today's Partner Web Conference. This is Fast Track for Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations Tech Talk. Today's topic, Italy VAT Management Regulatory Update. My name is Janice and I'm going to be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this web conference through Teams Live Events and the audio can be heard through your PC speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of Microsoft Corporation. Participation in the meeting today indicates your consent to being included in the meeting recording. Attendees may access the web conference recording by the same registration link that was used to attend today's live broadcast. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, you can turn on the Q&A panel by selecting the question mark icon located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. We do have presenters standing by to answer your questions throughout the session. Now, on to the presentation. Presenting for us today from the Dynamics Globalization team, we have product managers Adam Trukaka and Elizaveta Golub. So without any further delay, Adam, the floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tech Talk session dedicated to VAT management in Italy. In today's session, we will talk about new options for VAT reporting related to latest changes in Italian law. My name is Adam Trukawka, and together with me today is joining Elizaveta Golub. So let's get started and move to the next slide. Please take a moment to read through our disclaimer for this presentation. Specifically, please note we will be making forward-looking statements about product or services not yet released to the market. Everything you will see or hear in this presentation is subject to later change without a notice. Thank you. So, as Janice mentioned in the introduction, Elizaveta and I work in Dynamics Globalization Department of Microsoft. Basically, our team delivers functional localization or country-specific functionality for Dynamics. We also manage localization solutions published by our partners of Microsoft. And you may find those localization solutions on our website, Microsoft App Source. And those solutions are extensions to our localizations functionality, which our partners built on top of what we release in the standard product. Apart from the explicit country-specific functionality, our team develops globalization tools and services. Many of you probably use on a daily basis our configurable frameworks. And for instance, when I'm talking about configurable frameworks, I mean electronic reporting module, widely used in payments and regulatory reports, and electronic messaging used in reporting to government or services integration, which is commonly used in recent days in VAT reporting in many countries across Europe and not only in Europe. Those globalization frameworks have capabilities which make them specific to that extent that they don't need any coding skills from the users and can be configured either by implementation partners or power users in the company. And now I will hand over to Elizaveta. She will lead us through latest changes we are planning to release in the product. Elizaveta.
Thank you, Adam, for the introduction. Hello, everybody, once again. Thank you very much for joining our webinar, which we prepare for our partners and customers in Italy. Now we are getting started with the main part of our presentation for today, which is dedicated to the implementation of the requirements related to the changes in the VAT management in Italy. These changes are introduced by the Law Decree 119 on 23rd of October 2018. The presentation is composed of three parts, and the first part is about the changes in the legislation, which are the subject of the update in the system. In the second part, I will tell you what changes are introduced in the system in both finance and operations and in Dynamics AX 2012 R3. And at the end, if some time will left, we will answer some of your questions online. You may address your questions during the meeting in the chat of the meeting. All the questions will be answered offline, even if we will have some time to answer during the session. Most common questions will be added to the deck, which will be published as a PDF file afterwards. So you may address your questions in English or probably even if in Italian for offline answering if it will be more comfortable for you. And we will try to translate the questions into English to answer, but all the answers will be done in English just to avoid any potential confusion with the auto translation. Okay. Well, let's get started with the overview of the legislation change first. On 23rd of October last year in Italy, the Law Decree 119 introduced a change in value-added tax management in Italy that takes effect on July 1st this year. The change is also called in some sources as an invoicing simplification. Article 14 of the decree modified the time limit of input VAT recovery, enabling VAT payers to recover the input VAT in the VAT settlement for the month when the tax point is triggered, even if the purchase invoice is received and recorded in the input VAT ledger before the 15th of the following month. Thus, for example, an invoice dated on 20th of April but received on the 2nd of May could be booked in the purchase VAT ledger within the 15th of May by including the related input VAT in the VAT settlement of April. This rule does not apply to transactions whose tax point arises in a fiscal year different from that in which the purchase invoice is received. Thus, an invoice dated on 20th of December but received on 2nd of January cannot be recovered with reference to the VAT settlement of December. A mentioned rule is applicable for purchase invoices and it is not mandatory. Thus, the taxpayers can keep recovering the input VAT in the month in which the invoice is received. The Article 12 of the same decree provides a different simplification, which is instead related to the sales transactions. In particular, Article 12 of the decree modified the time limit for recording sales invoices in the output VAT ledger. According to the new rule, a sales invoice could be recorded in the output VAT ledger at the latest by the 15th of the month following that in which the transaction takes place, but always including the output VAT in the VAT settlement of the month when the tax point was triggered. Thus, a sales invoice issued on 20th of April can be booked within the 15th of May by including the related output VAT in the VAT settlement of April. In case when invoice is not issued at the tax point, it should include, in addition to the invoice date, a reference to the tax point date. In regards to booking of the invoices, it is mentioned also that invoices that are booked before the 15th day of the next month, but that have a reference to the previous VAT settlement should not interrupt the sequential numbering. Invoices with VAT point date in the previous month, but invoice date in the current month should be booked in a chronological sequence with the invoices in the current month with the reference to the fact that these invoices are related to the previous VAT settlement. At the same time, the companies that issue the sales invoices on the same day without applying the change that is introduced by the Law Decree 119 will remain compliant and may not apply any changes neither in the processes nor in the system. Well, Our presentation today is more for companies which intend to apply this so-called invoicing simplification. And in the next part, I will tell you about what changes are introduced in Dynamics 365 for finance and operations to accommodate these requirements. And first of all, the update introduces a new date type field, which is called date of VAT register. This will allow user to specify additionally to document date and transaction date a specific date when VAT point had place. This date will appear in all the documents where VAT transactions can be created and posted through the system. And first of all, these are sales and purchase invoices, free text invoices, and journals. The user will also be able to set up some author fill-in rules so that the date of VAT register would be defined automatically, and user will not need to specify this date each time manually. If for some reason a VAT transaction was posted with empty date of VAT register, it will also be possible to specify its value even after posting of the tax transaction. To activate this new field through the system, specific feature management was introduced and must be activated. And I will show you how to do that during our demo in the system. Next, the update includes a new date of VAT register parameter in general ledger. This parameter serves as a switch between the two regimes of VAT management. By default, this parameter is not marked. This means that VAT settlement and reporting will be working as in the past before the invoicing simplification, and even filling in a date of VAT register for the tax transactions will not be considered by the system differently before the date of VAT register parameter in general ledger is marked. Thus, when the company decides to work by date of VAT register for the VAT reporting purposes, then the date of VAT register parameter in general ledger must be marked. The third part of the update is dedicated to the changes introduced respectively to the Italian sales tax payment report. When date of VAT register parameter in general ledger is marked, this report will work in a new way. It will be the same as SRS report, but in this scenario, it is significantly extended. First of all, the invoices listing part will include a new column to report date of VAT register. I have to mention that the list of invoices will not be changed. All the invoices will be reported still by date of posting, and this is how the invoices are registered in the related books. And the report must show the sequential numbering during the registration as well. But as soon as the VAT amount in this scenario must be reported by date of VAT register, report will include this date, and the total VAT amounts will be calculated by this date. Thus, in section at the each sales tax book section at the end will include 3 groups of totals instead of 1 as it was in the past. First group will report VAT amounts by transactions in the period which tax point is in the current period. Second group will show the VAT amounts by transactions in the period with tax point in the previous period. Yes, and the third group will show the VAT amounts by transactions in the next period with the tax point in the current period. And the same grouping is introduced in totals by books as well. And summary part of the report will also look like will look more complex for this scenario, as for each mentioned group of transactions, VAT amounts will also be shown in a separate pages to provide more clarity and make the report more readable. The last page of the report, which is about sales tax payment, is not changed in terms of introducing of new fields or changes in the design. It will look completely the same as it is now, but VAT amounts will be calculated by date of VAT register instead of transaction date. Well, the full list of changes in the report can be found in the documentation. Links on the documentation are provided in this deck, and you will easily find them afterwards. And the fourth part of the update includes also some Italian reports which are impacted by the change in VAT management. For purchase and sales invoices communication, there will not be needed any update except of setup of the feature. Quarterly and yearly VAT communication. For these reports, we will release a new version of electronic reporting configurations, and a slight change in electronic invoicing was already delivered for this version. Okay. Now we are going to the demo of the changes introduced by the update in finance and operations. And first of all, I have to mention the version of finance and operations for which this update is released. It is 10.06 version, and in case a company decides to apply the new VAT invoicing simplification rules, then the version of the environment of such company must be of version 10.06 or later. For version 10.06, build number should be as it is shown here on the slide, 10.0234.21 or later. I will explain a little bit later why this build should be under control. Well, during the demo, we will know how to activate the date of VAT register feature in the feature management workspace and run consistency check for update the existing transactions in the database. After that, we will find where to set up the author filling rules. Then we will post a couple of invoices, and then we will know how to define the date of VAT register for those transactions for which this date of VAT register is not filled in. When we are done with the transactions, we will switch to the system. We will switch system to the new VAT management regime and generate sales tax payment report to see how it will look like for date of VAT register regime. After all, we will run sales tax payment or sales tax settlement process if we will have time for this, and validate the VAT amount calculated by date of VAT register. Now I will switch to my virtual machine. Hope it will work fast enough to go through all the scenarios which are planned for this demo. Okay, here we are in the system. This is version 10.06 of finance and operations, and this is our standard demo data. We will work in FRSI company, primary address for which is changed to Italian so that we could use the Italian functionality. And first of all, I will quickly go through the setup which I prepared here so that we could be all on the same page. So I have one settlement, sales tax settlement period here. And for this settlement period, I have created 3 intervals in this year. And for August, I have posted several invoices, and then I closed that period as if just to simulate a scenario similar to the one that each company will have when it decides to switch to the VAT management regime based on date of VAT register. So it is recommended to close first the period in which you were not using the date of VAT register before you start using it. I have also tax authority, and for this tax authority I have defined reporting layout, Italian reporting layout, just to be able to generate a sales tax payment report specific for Italy. What else? I have created sales tax group specifically for this demo, which is called normal, and we will work mainly with this group, which contains 3 sales tax codes, 22%, 10%, and 5%. Okay, this will be quite simple example illustrating the main sense of the feature. So for this purpose, this sales tax setup should be enough. One more thing, just to show that I have created also just 2 simple sections for sales tax book, one for Acquisti Ita and another one for Vendite Italia, so respectively to reflect purchases and sales transactions in those sections. Okay, well, first of all, when a company decides to start using date of VAT register to reflect additionally tax point date, the first thing to be done is to activate date of VAT register feature. And for this purpose, we go specifically to workspaces and we find feature management workspace. This is more or less new workspace here in this system, and we switch to all tab of this page and we search for date of VAT register feature. It is called just as the field and as the parameter to make it easily to be found. On the right side, we can see a short description of this feature, which may provide some high-level knowledge about what is this created for. And as you can see, it is already activated here on my demo system, and the date of activation is also reflected here in this line. If for some reason user will need to learn more about this feature, this learn more link should be used. This will drive the user to the Docs Microsoft.com portal, where under globalization part for Europe, under value added tax, a new page has appeared which is called tax point date or date of VAT register, which is specifically dedicated to this new feature. It is explained here how you may switch it on and how you may use it. Okay, go back to our system. So to switch on this feature, you need to simply click on the enable button on this page and the feature will be available immediately. You will probably just need to refresh your browser window to make it working. Okay, what else? It is important to know that date of VAT register field, which is activated by this feature, is shared globally, meaning that there is no country-specific context on it. And when you activate the feature, the field becomes available in all the legal entities with primary address in any country through the system. This basically does not mean that from this moment of activating of this feature in feature management, VAT management will be done immediately by this date. No, this is just about activating of the field itself, which has no impact on VAT settlement or calculation tax. When date of VAT register feature is enabled in feature management workspace, you will be able just to define additionally for sales tax transactions date of tax point by using date of VAT register field in all the legal entities through the system. If in some legal entities this field is not needed, it can be just hidden from the user interface of the particular user. Okay, date of VAT register will appear in more than 20 pages. When you post the document, all taxes are posted by using the corresponding date of VAT register. And this date will also appear on some common sales tax reports like specification, sales tax transaction or transactions, sorry, and some others. Okay, when we have activated the feature, the next step after that should be run consistency check. It should be done via modules, system administration, and here we have common, I would call it workspace for consistency check. In scope of this feature, we introduced a new consistency check here on the general ledger sales tax, and we called it sales tax transaction extension. Why it is important to do? The matter is that the date of VAT register field is physically stored in tax trans W table, which is a kind of extension of standard tax trans table. And when a company switches to date of VAT register regime by using the date of VAT register parameter in general ledger, I will show it on the next step. This will allow to use the VAT to use the VAT register date instead of transaction date during the VAT settlement. And data sources queries on some pages in the system will start working differently after this parameter on general ledger will be activated. It will join the tax trans W table, and as a result, tax transactions posted in the past period will not be seen in the user interface. It is just because there are no corresponding transactions in the new tax trans W table, because it was not in use in the past. So to avoid this issue, we recommend to run this sales tax transaction extension consistency check. And it can be run either for checking. For example, we want to check how many transactions need to be inserted into the new table. We may simply run this procedure for check, and the system informs us that there are 8 records missing. This is related just to my environment, to my data, demo data, that there are only 8 records missing in tax trans W table. So when you run this consistency check for fixed errors, these 8 missing records should be added. Okay, system informs us about that 8 records were inserted to tax trans W table. This means that now my data in the database is consistent, and I may go further. Please note that this sales tax transactions extension consistency check is available only when date of VAT register feature is enabled in feature management workspace. So if you will try to run this consistency check before enabling the feature in feature management, it will return with error. And once again, please pay attention that this consistency check is available starting from build number 10.0.234.21 or starting from any build for 10.07 version. Okay, next, when you have activated date of VAT register feature and have recovered the all tax transactions, you may proceed with defining of author filling rules which you will use in your system. For this purpose, you need to go to sales tax groups, and we will work with the group called normal. And as you can see, as soon as the feature management is switched on, a new parameter here has appeared, and there are 4 options in it. If you select manually, no value will be defined for date of VAT register field, and user can manually define the value before invoice posting. This is the value which is used by default for each group. This means that as soon as you switch on the feature in the feature management, all your sales tax groups will have the value manually before that. If you select for some group document date, a value of date of VAT register field will be defined automatically on document date change in the document. If you select the posting date, value of date of VAT register field will be defined automatically on posting date change. And the last value which was added here will allow you, will define automatically as date of VAT register the date of last packing slip for the purchase order case, or for the sales order case, sorry, and the last product receipt date for purchase order. I think we shall start with trying with posting date. So we have defined for our normal group the posting date parameter, and now so we are working in September. So now we will create and post a very simple vendor invoice. First of all, it is here. For this purpose, I have defined a journal which is associated with the section, with that one section of sales tax book about purchase invoices. And I have also created in advance a vendor, which is domestic vendor with address in Italy. So we will use that vendor here. And we will specify the invoice as today. For example, like this, for 1000, I will select more or less any account. As I have predefined for my vendor normal sales tax group, it is already used for this vendor, and I select the full item sales tax group, because this is the group which already includes 22% of tax. Here on invoice tab, we can see a new field appeared. It is called date of VAT register, and value of this field now is equal to the date of posting, which we are going to define for this transaction. If we change this field to another value, date of VAT register will be changed respectively. So user will not need to control that field each time manually. So now we are going to try the scenario when the date of VAT register is equal to the date of posting, and this is a case of normal invoice. I will post it. And I expect that one sales tax transaction will be created, and it will be for the tax code 22%, which is associated with IT sales tax book section. As you have noticed it, I did not activate for now the general ledger parameter, so I have just activated the new field. So a new sales tax transaction was posted in relation to this invoice, and it is luckily associated, it is associated with AIT sales tax book section. And for customers side, we will also post one normal invoice by using all free text invoices. I will create a new invoice. I have also predefined a domestic customer with address in Italy and just a fake tax exempt number is used for it. And this customer is also associated with that normal sales tax group for which we have defined the date of VAT register related to the posting date. As you can see, it was defined automatically. I will select main account and I will define item sales tax group as full as well and put some price here. So my transaction, my invoice is ready to be posted. And as we can see, this is the case. This is the case when the date of VAT register is the same as the posting date. After it will be posted, we will quickly check the sales tax, and then we will update the value of our sales tax group. Not the value, but the value of the author filling rule for the sales tax group. Because for the next scenario, I think we will check how the latest delivery date will work. So as we can see, a new sales tax transaction was posted, and on posting tab, we can control that it was associated with the sales tax section, sales tax book section. How to switch to another. Okay. Now I will open the setup of the sales tax group and update the value for the group with name normal to last delivery date. And now we will simulate the scenario when we have posted several for purchase order product receipts, and then we will post an invoice in October. So we will stay in September, and we will go to purchase orders, and I have created a purchase order there which has already product receipts posted. 2 of them are in August, and for them the invoice was already posted in August, and there are 2 more in September. For these product receipts, we will create an invoice right now, and we will expect that the date of the invoice, that the date of VAT register for that invoice will be defined as 29th of September. For this purpose, we will go now to October. Just to simulate the case when we are in the beginning of the next month. So we are in October and we go back to our purchase order. And we will post an invoice now for the purchase order, which has 2 product receipts dated in September. We expect that the date of VAT register should be 29th of September. It's predefined automatically value for this new field. Hope it will be working. I'm not sure what is it. Should be fine. Oh, it was just small pause. Okay, as you can see, a new field date of VAT register has appeared on this form, and the value is defined as we expected as 29th of September. I will put the number of this invoice, invoice October, for example, and I will put the invoice date in October as well, the 2nd of October, or probably the 1st of October, to have 3 different dates. And the quantity is defined by product received quantity. And I think we shall post this invoice now. Okay, posting operation is in progress, and we expect that just one sales tax transaction will be created because I have just one line in my purchase order. So we may observe the invoices by this purchase order. As we can see, the first line is related to the August, when we did not use the feature date of VAT register. And now we are in August, we are using date of VAT register, and the transaction was posted with this date. In respect to this invoice, posted sales tax will also have date of VAT register filled in with the date in September. Similar to this scenario, we will consider one more transaction in accounts receivable model. For this purpose, we will stay in October and we will go to sales order. Here I have one sales order, and there are several packing slip already posted for this order. 2 packing slips are posted in August, and for these transactions I have posted the invoice in August, and then I have posted 3 packing slips in September, and the last date used is the 30th of September. So we will expect that the new invoice will be generated with this date, 30th of September. I go to invoice tab on action pane and generate an invoice. Okay, so we can see that the date of VAT register also appeared in this page, and it is predefined as we expected, equal to the last date of the last packing slip. Okay, we may put a document date here as, for example, also the 1st of October, and I think we can post this invoice now. So we expect that the invoice will be generated. The posting date will be the 2nd of October. The document date will be the 1st of October, and the date of VAT register will be at the end of September. We will review the journal of invoices related to this sales order. The first invoice is in August and the second one is dated in October. And we can see the date of VAT register for this invoice in September. And posted sales tax for this invoice is also with the date of VAT register in September. Okay, well, we will not post more transactions in this period to not waste time on this. And before we will go to the next important part of the update, which is about specifically changes in the VAT management, I will show you how to fill in the date of VAT register for transactions which are already posted. So if you have already, for this purpose, I will go to tax. We have here periodic tasks and VAT register transactions. So you have if you have already posted some transactions, and for example, you missed to fill in the date of VAT register, how you can proceed in this case? You may open this field and by default, all the transactions will appear here, which has empty date of VAT register. As soon as for our transactions, we did not miss to fill in this field, we cannot see now these transactions, but we see the transactions in the previous period. Unfortunately, or probably luckily, the system will not allow us to update date of VAT register for these transactions because the system controls that these transactions are posted in the period which is already closed. And in my case, I do not want to see these transactions in the list because I have started to use the feature from the 1st of September. For this purpose, I will add here the transaction date filter and I will specify here the criteria as after August 31, 2019. So these unnecessary transactions will be filtered out from this page. And if, for example, I want to change a value of some of the transaction, then I will just exclude this filter from the criteria. And in this case, my new transactions will appear here. Date of VAT register was not missed, but for example, for some reason, I just need to change these dates for this transaction. In this case, I select this transaction and I click on date of VAT register button on the action pane. Here I will specify a new date, for example, 27th of September. The transaction date of VAT register was updated respectively. Multi-selection is also working in this page, and you may even select all the transactions and update them together. Okay, this is all about this important feature as well. And now, when date of VAT register feature is enabled in the feature management workspace and user in legal entity with primary address in Italy, it will be possible to see a new parameter here on General Ledger Parameters on Sales Tax tab. Here we have Tax Options Fast tab, and a new parameter has appeared on this page. We will switch it to yes, and the system just announced that we must go to the consistency check and it is strongly recommended. We have already completed this procedure, so we do not need to do anything additionally. We simply click OK, because this message is just for the user information. So from this moment, our system will work in a new way, in a new regime, in the regime of date of VAT register. And this means that transactions during the sales tax settlement process and Italian sales tax payment report will be considered by date of VAT register instead of date of transaction posting. And it is important to note here that system will not allow you to switch on this parameter on general ledger page if there are tax transactions posted in open interval of sales tax settlement period with value date of VAT register field in some closed interval of sales tax settlement period. At the same time, if you have already switched on this parameter, you will not be able to switch it off if there are tax transactions with value of date of VAT register field is in closed interval of sales tax settlement period, but posted in open interval of sales tax settlement period. And one more point about system restrictions. System will control and will not allow you to switch off the parameter in feature management workspace, that one which we have observed in the very beginning, if there is at least one legal entity where date of VAT register parameter on general ledger page, general ledger parameters page, is switched on. All these restrictions are introduced just to control the consistency of sales tax transactions in between the periods, just because Italian localization does not allow to do any corrections in the settlements, because we can do just one sales tax settlement. Okay, to the changes in the report. I will generate the Italian sales tax payment report now for September, just to see how it will look like after the new regime was activated. All the books are activated and summary part as well. And let's see the new look of the report. From the very first sight, it may seem that it is the same, but I will quickly show the main changes in this report. As soon as it will appear on the screen. We have not too much time left, and hope it will be generated quickly. So, as you can see, just one transaction here in the list of September invoices for purchase sales tax book. And that was that one with the date of VAT register in September. But if we go to the totals, we will see, we have a new column here. It is here and the date is shown respectively. Here in the totals, we can see the totals are shown in 3 groups. The first group is about transactions in this period. The second is about transactions in this period, but with the tax point date in the previous period. We have zeros here because we do not have any invoices in this period with, in September with tax point date in August. But we have posted some transactions in October with tax point date in September. And these amounts are reflected here in the report respectively. The same here in the totals, in the grand totals by purchase. You can see 3 lines instead the one in the past, and one additional line about grand totals by purchases, which is calculated as a result of all these 3 groups. The same for sales part. I will quickly go through this part to the summary, because summary now will be shown in 3 pages instead of one as it was in the past. First page is about transactions in this period. Second is about the transactions with the competence date with the tax point date in the previous period. And the third is about transactions in the next period, but with the tax point in this period. And the same for sales part. The sales tax payment page is not changed, but as you can see, the amounts were calculated considering the date of VAT register respectively. Okay, I do not see that we have time to do the settlement, but I think we may just initiate it quickly just to see how the sales tax payment amount will be calculated. Wait, in September, 1st of September. Okay, we can see that the amount was calculated respectively. I just did it in the parallel in a parallel tab of the browser just to be able to compare. So we will not wait till the end of this process just to save time for the next our parts of the demo. Thus, we have reviewed all the changes introduced to this version in respect to the Law Decree 119. Now we know how to activate the feature. We will not forget to run consistency check when the feature will be activated. We know how to define author fill-in rules for date of VAT register and how to fill in the date of VAT register when we need it. In the VAT settlement and reporting, we know what changes to expect. And let's go further and see the status of releasing functionality affected by this change. In this table, there are Italian features affected by the change in VAT management, and the main part that I have just shown today is already released for version 10.06, as I notice it above, which is going to be available. I mean 10.06 is going to be available for sandbox environment early next week, and for production environment since the 8th of October. There are also planned updates for the quarterly and yearly VAT communications, and for the purchase and sales invoice communication, no update is needed, just a setup of the feature, and it will be needed to be adjusted very slightly, and this will be reflected in the feature documentation, which will explain how to do this adjustment of the setup. As for the documentation, here on this slide, I have collected some links on new articles which are now either published or in the process of publishing and should get available on docsmicrosoft.com very soon. As for the specifically feature documentation, just make sure that you are, so if you will search not by the links but through the table of content on docsmicrosoft.com, make sure that you will be searching for tax point date under Europe. As you remember, under Europe, VAT group, and other pages will be under Italy. I might probably quickly open this page to show. Yes, It is here. So this page has already appeared under Italy documentation, and it is called VAT Management and Reporting by Date of Tax Point. Okay. As for the specifically featured documentation by the update, please use this KB article. All the information about this change is collected there in one document. The same information is also available on these articles, but here it is divided into several articles. So for the first time usage, it probably will be more useful to use the this KB article. Okay. Here is just a small announcement in regards to finance and operation, which is also officially published already, that due to the fact that blacklist report and old version of domestic tax report, I do not mean here the estimator report, which is obviously at place, but the old version of domestic tax report and blacklist report are not required anymore. And due to this fact, these features are planned to be deprecated in 1 year. So if you want to learn more, you may follow this link and find more information about this deprecation.
Hey, Lisa.
Yeah.
I think we should respect people's time, and we are on top of the hour. We should conclude our presentation. I guess we will have to think about additional time for this part about AX 2012 R3 specifically. So I suggest we will just jump to the end of our presentation and address a few questions from the Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Adam, for this reminder. I just quickly say that for Dynamics 360 or AX 2012 R3, the change is completely the same, and the only difference is that there is no such framework like key feature management, and in this version users will need to activate a new configuration key, and all the details can be easily found in the related KB article. And to the release status of AX 2012 R3. In this table, you may see that the update for this function, for this version, is planned to be released in October of this year, and this plan can be slightly potentially changed due to extremely large quantity of changes which must be released, and the impacted reports are also planned to be updated and released. And the table on this slide informs about schedule of release for the version 7.3. For version 7.3, the main part of the update will be delivered during this calendar year, and for the reports, we do not expect any specific updates to be released because this reporting delivered via electronic reporting module, and the same configuration changed for version 10 should be applicable for 7.3 version. Okay, actually this is all I intended to tell today. The change is huge in terms of how many objects in the system are affected, but we tried to make it useful and to redesign the report change to be readable and legally compliant. So the legal requirements to the way of reporting of the invoices with the tax point date in the previous period was clarified specifically with KPMG. And you will have some, if you will have some question afterwards, you may address them directly by the emails which are informed on the very first page of this deck, because this is also important for us to get your early feedback to provide the best quality of our product and the documentation as well. And as usually, if you will face some issues, you may address them to our support team. And I would like to have just this opportunity to say big thanks to our colleagues from the support team, Massimiliana and Valentina, who always provide us with all the important information from Italy. Thank you very much, guys. Adam, I'm sorry, I'm late.
Thank you, Lisa. That was a great time. Since we don't have much time during the presentation of Lisa, Lisa presented, I was answering questions and published a lot of answers. However, there is still few questions pending answers, so I promised to answer in the deck, which we will share in this after this presentation. So if you didn't receive any answer from my side on your question, we will address that in the Q&A section of this deck after we'll publish that. Obviously, as Lisa mentioned, there's email addresses at the beginning of this presentation, so you can always contact us and ask additional questions. Regarding this additional changes in AX 2012 R3, we will think about organizing additional session to provide you with details while we are closer to the releasing of the updates. I think this concludes our demo for today. So back to you, Janice, to close the session. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Adam. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a brief moment here and bring your attention to a link that I posted in the Q&A panel. That's a link to a short survey for this web conference. We ask that you please take a moment before logging out to access it. We hope that you found today's information helpful, and if you enjoyed today's web conference, have feedback on how we can provide you with a better event, or you'd like to submit topics for future web conferences, this is your chance to let us know. We do appreciate the time you take to do this, and thank you for your support. And that is going to conclude today's web conference. The recording and a copy of the presentation deck will be available within 5 business days. Please look for an email in the coming days that will include details on how to access them. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters, Adam and Elizaveta, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us today.